Today, we're going to break down a truly chilling communication failure. It's a story that starts with what one person was absolutely convinced was a friendship, but it ends with a level of violence that is just, well, shocking. Our investigation into what went wrong starts right now.
So let's start at the end. The story concludes with a woman in a hospital bed. She has over 100 bite wounds, multiple broken bones, and a completely crushed hand. The thing is, her attacker wasn't some stranger. It was an animal she visited 4 times a week, an animal she truly believed was her friend. So the question is just, how? How does a story of friendship end up like this? The scene itself was absolute chaos. A massive silverback gorilla named Bokito at the Rotterdam Zoo suddenly scaled a wall, leaped across a moat, and escaped his enclosure. You can imagine the panic. But as hundreds of people screamed and ran, the gorilla just ignored them. He was on a mission, and he had a single target, a woman named Yvonne. He found her, and he attacked her with brutal efficiency.
And that, right there, is the central mystery. Why her? With hundreds of people to choose from, why did this incredibly powerful animal focus all of its rage on this one person? Well, the answer isn't in the violence of that final moment. No, it's hidden in the quiet moments, the ones that happened every single week for years leading up to it. To understand the attack, you first have to understand the relationship.
You see, Yvonne was convinced she had this special, personal connection with Bokito. This wasn't just some random, tragic encounter. It was the explosive climax of a long-standing ritual, a ritual that Yvonne saw as a deep friendship, but that the gorilla, well, he saw as something else entirely.
The pattern was like clockwork. 4 times a week, Yvonne would go to the zoo and stand at the exact same spot in front of the glass. In her mind, she was sharing this private moment, building a unique bond. And the absolute proof of that bond, the cornerstone of their whole connection, was a simple little gesture they shared, a smile.
And this quote from Yvonne, it just says everything, doesn't it? She genuinely believed they were communicating. She'd offer a smile, a human sign of warmth and affection, and from her perspective, Bokito was doing the exact same thing right back at her. For her, it was undeniable proof they were friends.
But what if that smile got lost in translation? This is the real turning point in the whole case. The key to unlocking this entire violent mystery is hidden inside the true meaning of that one simple gesture.
For you and me, a smile is a bridge. It means hello, it means happiness, it means I'm not a threat. But in the silent nonverbal language of primates, baring your teeth is the exact opposite. It is a massive red flag. It's a signal of aggression, a challenge for dominance. It's an unmistakable threat.
And this was the catastrophic misunderstanding. In gorilla language, what Yvonne was doing is called a bared teeth display. Every single time she smiled at him, she wasn't saying, "Hello, my friend." In his language, she was saying, "I am a threat to you."
Okay, so here's where it all clicks into place. That smile wasn't just one misunderstood signal. Once you reframe that simple gesture as an act of aggression, you can look back at their whole weekly ritual and see it for what it was, a forensic log of a daily confrontation, with Yvonne as the unknowing aggressor.
Let's look at the evidence. Exhibit A, the eye contact, that loving gaze that Yvonne thought she was sharing. Well, to a silverback gorilla, a long, direct stare is a bold, audacious challenge. It's a nonverbal way of saying, I'm questioning your authority, I'm questioning your status as the alpha.
And then Exhibit B, the grin itself. When you combine that with the direct stare, showing his teeth wasn't just some general threat. It was basically a promise of conflict. From Bokito's point of view, Yvonne was showing up day after day and making it crystal clear that she was an enemy who wanted to fight.
And just think about how often this happened. This number is just staggering. 4 times every single week for years. This human would show up, stare him down, and bare her teeth at him. I mean, just imagine being challenged like that, over and over, by a rival who just won't go away. How long would it take before you finally snapped? And that's exactly what happened. An alpha animal can only be challenged so many times before instinct just takes over. Years of what he perceived as threats of these weekly standoffs were all about to boil over into a violent and very decisive response.
The end unfolded with terrifying speed. At 1:15 p.m., Yvonne shows up for her visit. She makes eye contact, she offers that final smile. Just 1 minute later, Bokito is enraged, charging around his enclosure. At 1:17, he's over the wall and across the moat. And by 1:18, his years-long confrontation is finally over.
He found the source of the threat and he neutralized it.
So, what's the lesson here? What can we possibly learn from such a tragic story? Well, it is a stark, brutal lesson in the dangers of something scientists call anthropomorphism. That's our very human habit of projecting our own feelings, our motives, and our emotions onto animals.
The takeaways here are crystal clear. Animal signals are not universal. They have their own language. And projecting our emotions onto a wild animal isn't just a bit naive. It can be incredibly dangerous. Just because we feel a bond in our hearts doesn't mean an interaction is actually safe. The barrier between our species and theirs is real, and it has to be respected. Ultimately, this is the really hard truth of it all. Yvonne saw a friend because that was the story she wanted to believe. But Bokito, he didn't see a story. He didn't see her good intentions. He just saw an action, a direct physical threat repeated over and over and over. And he simply responded to what he saw.
And that really leaves us with a critical question, one we should all probably ask ourselves. When we look into the eyes of an animal and we feel that connection, are we truly seeing them for what they are? Or are we just telling ourselves a story and casting them in a role they never, ever agreed to play?